It began as just another glamorous night in Seoul. The lights, the cameras, the endless flashes from photographers. All of it set against a stage where some of the biggest names in the Korean entertainment industry had gathered. But no one, absolutely no one, expected what was about to unfold. The event was supposed to celebrate Lee Min-ho, his career, his achievements, and his lasting influence in both film and television. It was an evening where fans, colleagues, and media outlets would come together to honor him. Yet in the middle of it all, one quiet figure took the microphone. Kim Go-eun. She wasn't listed as a speaker. She wasn't even expected to attend. And yet, there she was, dressed in a soft, elegant gown, her hair swept back. Her presence was enough to draw every pair of eyes in the room toward her. It wasn't just her beauty, it was the look in her eyes, a mixture of warmth and something heavier. When she began to speak, her voice trembled ever so slightly. She started by congratulating Lee Min-ho on his incredible journey. She spoke of his relentless dedication, his hard work, and his unmatched ability to bring characters to life. But soon her words took a turn. She began to recall moments that felt far too personal to be part of a scripted tribute. The late-night rehearsals, the days when exhaustion weighed heavy, yet he never let it show. The quiet encouragement he would give her when she doubted herself. And as she spoke, her voice grew softer, her eyes shimmering under the stage lights. The room grew completely still. It was as if no one dared to breathe, afraid they might miss a single word. Then came the moment that would leave everyone talking. Kim Go-eun's voice cracked. Her lips trembled as she tried to continue, and for the first time, she let a tear slip down her cheek. She paused, pressing her hand lightly against the microphone, as if trying to gather herself. And when she spoke again, it wasn't the polished words of a celebrity. It was raw. It was real. She spoke of gratitude, not the kind you read in acceptance speeches, but the kind that comes from someone whose life has been deeply touched. She thanked him, not just for the roles they played together, but for being a constant presence during moments she could not face alone. She told the room, and perhaps him more than anyone, that sometimes the world doesn't see the battles a person fights behind the scenes. And Lee Min-ho had been there for hers. By now, the cameras had zoomed in. Every media outlet present captured her tearful expression. The way her voice seemed to hold back a flood of emotions. And every fan watching, whether in the room or through the live stream, felt it. She continued, saying that some connections in life are not defined by titles or rumors, but by quiet moments of understanding, by silent support when words aren't enough. At that point, Lee Min-ho, seated at the front, looked visibly moved. His expression softened, his gaze fixed on her, as if every word was meant for him alone. The audience wasn't sure if this was simply a heartfelt tribute between colleagues, or something more, because the way she looked at him, and the way he looked back, it didn't feel staged. It didn't feel rehearsed. When she finished her speech, there was a brief silence before the applause began. It wasn't the usual loud, explosive clapping you hear at such events. It was softer at first, almost hesitant, as if everyone was still processing what they had just witnessed. Lee Min-ho stood up, and without hesitation, he walked toward her. The room erupted into flashes once again as cameras tried to capture the moment. He didn't say anything into the microphone. Instead, he simply took her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. A gesture so small, yet so loaded with meaning. Fans immediately took to social media. Clips of her tearful speech spread like wildfire, paired with slow-motion footage of his reaction. Hashtags began trending within minutes. Some insisted it was simply a touching moment between friends. Others were convinced it was a public declaration of something far deeper. And the speculation didn't stop there. People began analyzing every word she had said, looking for hidden meaning. Was she hinting at a past they shared? Was this her way of thanking him for something the public didn't know about? Several fans noted that her tone shifted when she spoke about the times he had been there for her. That wasn't the language of a casual acquaintance. It was the language of someone who had been through storms with another person. In the days that followed, neither Lee Min-ho nor Kim Go-eun addressed the moment directly. They didn't post statements, they didn't explain. And maybe that silence said more than words ever could. Paparazzi photos began surfacing, showing the two leaving the venue together later that night. Not arm in arm, not hand in hand, but walking close enough that their connection was unmistakable. Some fans felt joy at the sight, believing that whatever bond they shared was something beautiful and worth protecting. Others worried, knowing how harsh public scrutiny could be, especially for two people constantly in the spotlight. Industry insiders whispered about how rare it was for Kim Go-eun to show such raw emotion in a public setting. She had always been known for her composure, her grace. For her to stand on that stage, voice cracking and eyes glistening, it wasn't just a tribute. It was a window into something personal. And perhaps that's why the moment resonated so deeply. Because in an industry often polished to perfection, here was something unpolished, something vulnerable, something real. Even weeks later, fans continued to revisit the clip. Comment sections overflowed with messages, some romantic, some protective, all deeply invested. People from all over the world admitted that watching her speech had moved them to tears, even without knowing the full story behind it. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Not everything needs to be explained. Sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones the world can only guess at. As for Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, they continued to appear at events, sometimes together, sometimes apart. But for those who had seen that night, who had heard her trembling voice and seen the way he looked at her, the memory lingered. It became one of those rare moments in celebrity culture that felt timeless. A reminder that beneath the fame, the lights, and the headlines, there are still human stories unfolding. Stories of gratitude, quiet support, and unspoken understanding. And whether you call it friendship, love, or something in between, Kim Go-eun's tearful speech ensured that, for one unforgettable night, the world got to see it. It all began when Lee Min-ho announced the event, a fan meeting that would not only celebrate his latest achievements, but also honor the people who have been part of his journey. Fans expected the usual: warm greetings, playful interactions, a few heartfelt words, and maybe a surprise performance. What they didn't expect was Kim Go-eun. Her appearance wasn't listed in the official schedule. The media didn't hint at her attendance. And the fans who filled the venue were as shocked as they were thrilled when she quietly entered the hall, dressed in an understated yet elegant outfit. It wasn't just her presence that drew attention. It was the way Lee Min-ho's eyes immediately lit up when he saw her. The subtle change in his expression, the warmth that replaced his professional composure, spoke volumes to those paying attention. As the event progressed, the atmosphere remained light and joyful. Fans laughed at Lee Min-ho's playful banter, cheered during his stories, and applauded each heartfelt moment. But then came the part of the program that changed everything. It was time for the special guest segment. The lights dimmed slightly, the music softened, and the host announced that someone very important had prepared a few words for Lee Min-ho. When Kim Go-eun walked up to the stage, the room erupted in a mix of cheers and gasps. The cameras flashed wildly, and the energy in the room shifted from excitement to a kind of reverent anticipation.